Welcome back to another legit food review. Today we're going to be reviewing Vitamin Water Zero, the best drink on planet Earth. Anyway, we're going to be reacting to a disturbing true Snapchat story 2, animated. This is going to be live action. Subscribe to Llama Arts, they're way better than me. Let's go. It glitched. I don't have Snapchat, by the way. I did at one point.
This is a short but terrifying story of something that happened when I was Snapchatting a friend. I'm pretty young. I'm only 13, still in middle school. A girl I really liked had just recently started snapping me selfie pictures, and we started messaging each other for a few nights.
What is that?
One night when I was watching TV, she sent me a snap of herself laying in her bed without a caption. I sent a message saying, "What's up?" She sent another identical picture, this time with a caption saying, "Not much, you?" She set the timer to 10 seconds, so it gave me plenty of time to analyze the picture, including her bedroom in the background, and the dark outline of a person standing by her window. I quickly sent a response message saying, "Is that your brother by the window?"
Wow, that's not...
She sent another identical snap, this time captioned, "What do you mean?" In this picture, the figure at the window was closer, and I could see a hand pressed up against the glass. I closed the snap before the timer even ran out so I could tell her quicker. I said, "There's somebody at your window, turn around." She opened my snap almost immediately, and then I didn't hear from her again on the app. I grew more and more worried as the minutes passed. I texted her a few times to no avail. I tried calling her a few times to no avail as well.
That's scary.
I didn't know her house phone number, otherwise I would have called her parents. It wasn't until midnight, when I was already laying in bed, that she finally texted me back. She explained the whole situation. As soon as she looked at her window and saw the person standing there, she screamed, and that caused the person, who turned out to be a 20-something-year-old man, to open the window and jump into the room. From there, she ran to her parents'
It's like the leafy thing. It's a freaking 26-year-old man!
room and woke her dad, who went to her room to find nothing but an open window.
26-year-old man.
It wasn't exactly a personal story of mine, but it freaks me out nonetheless, knowing that the only thing that saved my friend from whatever could have happened was the fact that I was able to see the window through her selfies, unbeknownst to the creeper at her window.
Alright, now we're gonna watch Scary and True Pool Horror Stories, animated. There's gonna be an ad number for that. Or maybe not. There will in a few seconds, though. Also, sorry if it buffers. I had this program allowing me to webcam in the background.
It was approaching the end of summer, and my friends and I wanted to do some cool, mischievous things before going back to school.
Powerful.
So, we had the genius idea one night to sneak into a nearby community pool. It was actually only a couple blocks away. It's right smack in the middle of a residential area. So instead of sitting on a main road or something, it actually just sat around a bunch of houses on a quiet road.
I wouldn't trust it already.
During a hot day, the little parking lot would be full, and the spot would be bustling.
See
but
that
at
red
1 in the
one?
morning, the place was of course dead.
I'm an idiot.
There's obviously a big fence surrounding the whole front entrance, as well as a cage that gets closed up when the place closes. So our best way was to get in through the side. We snuck into the backyard of a neighboring house and hopped the fence over to the pool. It was as easy as that.
Wow.
The four of us took off our shirts and jumped into the pool, which in retrospect wasn't smart, since any of the neighbors could have heard the splashes and just called the police. But we were dumb high schoolers. It was very, very dark within that whole enclosing. This pool had no lights, which is why it closed.
The problem with this is it's not very scary. It might get scarier. I want to judge.
James, Courtney, and Alyssa were on the other side of the pool, as I was just kind of doing my own thing at first, swimming around and getting my face wet. I saw Alyssa get out of the pool shortly after and run away. I swam over to see what was going on. She was just going to the water fountain, though. The three of us just bopped around in the water for a bit, and eventually we heard Alyssa jump back into the pool from the other side. It was too dark to see much more than her black hair covering her face.
Oof.
But just then we heard Alyssa playfully call something to us as she was walking back to the pool.
Oof.
The three of us in the pool looked at each other.
Oof. Wait. You know, the first part where they're like, Alyssa jumped back into the pool, they could have said a strange figure with black hair that we thought was Alyssa. That confuses it. That's like me coming from the ceiling right now, and then I pull off a mask and I'm a clown. Some crap.
I know they were doing the same thing as me, counting heads. There were three of us on this side of the pool, and here came Alyssa walking over to our side.
She's white.
So who was that on the other side?
Judge, though.
Well, Alyssa got in, but the three of us were distracted, looking at the head bopping around the water across the pool.
Your mom gay.
James said across the pool, "Who is that?" Not even 2 seconds later, the head went underwater and disappeared from view. We took this time to whisper to each other, mostly things like, what should we do? What if that's security? And should we run? Suddenly I felt something grab my leg with force and tried pulling me down into the water.
Shot.
I kicked, splashed, and yelled for help. James came over to pull me out of the pool, while the girls were already running for it, screaming. It wasn't until I got to the stairs of the pool that the grip on my leg was released and I was free. We hopped the same fence we climbed over to get in and ran all the way back to Alyssa's house.
You forgot your hat and your
I was
shirt.
convinced that whoever that was a security guard. That is, until they literally tried to pull me under the water. We don't know what to think. There are a few possibilities. Maybe it was just another kid messing with us. Maybe it was a security guard who went way too far. Or most likely, it was a dangerous person who had ill intent.
It wasn't that either. It was a kid pulling a prank. Oh, that wasn't pleasant to look at, though. We're going to look at hide and seek stories anime, and there's going to be an ad on this one, too. I'm sorry for that. And then I'm going to close the video down. Is that a fire? Oh, here's the ad. Snacks back again.
When I was a kid, my parents would sometimes bring me down to my aunt and uncle's place to stay for the weekend.
Same.
Mainly, I'd spend time playing with my two cousins who were around the same age as me. They lived on a small farm with plenty of open space, and we could run around doing pretty much whatever we wanted. If we thought we could get away with it, the three of us would sometimes cross over to the neighboring farm about half a mile away. It had been abandoned for decades, with a scattering of derelict buildings and other structures still standing on the property, just begging to be explored. This was of course a gold mine for three adventurous young boys such as ourselves, especially after my cousins told me stories about the deaths that took place in the house. It was pretty classic fare. Man goes crazy, axe murders his entire family, hangs himself, returns every night as an angry spirit looking for new victims. Good, grisly stuff. Even at that age, I knew they were probably making it up, or at least embellishing old rumors. But seeing as how the setting lent itself so well to such tales, I allowed myself to buy into it. One afternoon, we decided to play hide and seek.
I'm a very pessimistic person, and I have a negative take on everything except for, like, food. Just kidding. Except for cheese, really. And if I had this, I would be like, if this was my story, I would be like, alright, even the following of this is destined to be fake, but it is.
When it was my turn to hide, I ran off for a flimsy brown barn that had living quarters on top and climbed the stairs looking for a good spot. There was still furniture inside, and personal belongings lay scattered across the floor. I maneuvered over broken dishes, tattered clothes, and crumbling books, eventually coming to a small room with a closet. Jackpot. There were even long black dresses still hanging on the rod that I could hide behind.
That one's not black.
I stepped inside and managed to force shut the folding door. My only illumination was a slit of sunlight that shone through the crack in the door from a nearby window. I crouched down with knees tucked into chest and waited. Some time passed, and there was still no sign of my seekers. I waited some more, debating if and when I should give myself up. After nearly an hour, it was starting to get boring. My head drooped. I woke with a jerk.
I think I killed it.
It was pitch black. Drowsy and confused, I forgot for a minute where I was or what I had been doing. As it came back to me, the realization that it was now nighttime and that I had been abandoned here filled me with sinking dread in the pit of my stomach. I tried to get up, but a sudden cramp in my calf kept me grounded. I squirmed about, waiting for it to pass, when I heard a door slamming shut downstairs, and instantly froze.
Alright, I know it's fake.
One of my cousins? There was a brief period of silence, then footsteps at the bottom of the stairs. But not just footsteps, a thud too. After every other step. These weren't the footfalls of a child. They were slow, heavy, deliberate. I held my breath, praying they would go away. They did not. The noises continued to ascend. After another moment of silence, the walking resumed, this time along with a steady scraping sound, like something heavy being dragged across the floorboards. The footsteps made their way through the debris and wandered aimlessly through the various rooms. I thought I could smell something faintly putrid. The constant scrape sent cold shivers coursing down my arms and back. My worst fears were realized when the steps reached the bedroom doorway. They got closer and closer, and finally stopped directly in front of the closet door. I couldn't see a thing. After an agonizing pause, they continued on, over to the other side of the room and out the doorway again. They faded away down the hallway. I waited for what seemed like an eternity. There were no more sounds now, and I was trying to build up enough courage to open the door and flee. 3 things happened simultaneously just then. I was bombarded with a smell I can only describe as fresh roadkill. I heard raspy breathing behind me in the dark closet, and I felt hot breath against the nape of my neck. That was enough for me to hurtle myself out from the confines of that nightmare space, relying on memory and scant moonlight to navigate through the darkened house. All the while, I heard footsteps chasing behind me, closing in with terrifying speed. It was a clumsy, torturous escape, full of trips and bumps and blind stumbling. I never looked back, at least not until I had burst out the front door and into the country night. And when I did turn around, I saw absolutely nothing. There were no more footsteps and nobody was chasing me. That didn't stop me from running, though, all the way back to my aunt and uncle's house. There was a police car in the driveway when I got back. My parents were there too, worried sick. Everybody demanded to know where I had been. Apparently, when my cousins still hadn't found me by evening, they'd returned home to tell their parents. Eventually, the police were called in, and informed me that they had already scoured every building on the farm. The insinuation that I was lying about my whereabouts didn't go unnoticed. None of it made any sense. It wasn't until years later that one of my cousins filled in a final piece of the story. He and his brothers had spent hours searching for me like they said, but the part they didn't tell anyone was that they thought they spotted me in the window of the bedroom I was hiding in. When they got closer, they saw that it wasn't me. A young boy neither of them recognized was smiling and waving down at them, and gesturing for them to come upstairs. That's when they ran back home. All of this while I slept in the closet.
Why would you tell that? Alright, see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this video where I'm not wearing a Jack Skeleton hat. Bye.